That was the greatest Amtrak train in history. I wish they would bring it back.
Indeed, we had some really good memories back when we used to pull it.
Well, our conductor gave the signal to our engineer. It's time to depart.
Right away.
Okay, Ryuze, in just a few hours, I'll be assigning you to a local.
Another Conrail shared assets job. This'll be fun. In the meantime, I may as well go to Highland Valley for a bit. Wow. The yard's empty today. I wonder why.
Oh hi Ryuze, what's up?
I've got nothing to do. But just earlier, Evelyn, Raymond, and I were talking about the Broadway Limited.
In fact, one of the fictional Amtrak trains in my series is loosely based off that and the later Three Rivers.
That was a neat train. Did you know my granddad rode it once?
He did?
I remember it quite well, so here's the story. It was February of 1956. We had mostly recovered from the winter season and were getting back on track. No pun intended. The Pennsylvania Railroad was big on passenger service. We had the Steeler, the Spirit of St. Louis, the Liberty Limited, the Pittsburgher, and plenty more. There's one train, the pride of the PRR, the Broadway Limited. Believe it or not, this wasn't named after Broadway in New York. It was actually named for PRR's four-line tracks, the Broadway. The service commenced in 1912, thus making a connection between the Big Apple, New York, and the Windy City, Chicago. This train was also a competitor of New York Central's 20th Century Limited, a similar service between New York and Chicago with a slightly different route. While the 20th Century Limited was for business people, our Broadway Limited was ideal for older folks. It was undoubtedly the most famous and most popular express service on the railroad. The train also ended up surviving beyond the PRR era, then it was passed on to Amtrak by the Penn Central in 1971. Ah yes, then we had those glory days where the Limited ran with shiny F40 PHs and the Heritage fleet. But sadly, it couldn't go on forever. It was discontinued in 1995 due to budget cuts by Thomas Downs. And here is the story. It was just minutes after midnight. Nick was called to take a westbound fast freight toward Chicago. He had started out of Altoona late in the afternoon and was now stopped at Highland Valley for an inspection. Nick's conductor and rear brakeman were going on about their business inside the caboose, while Nick's crew was dozing off in the cab.
Yeah, how long do you think this'll take?
Maybe another 30 minutes or so.
Oh, wait. You see all those cars in the station parking lot?
Oh yes, the Broadway's doing like 5 minutes.
Huh, that means it's right on time.
And a few minutes later, they heard a horn blaring in the distance. The Broadway Limited slowly rounded the curve and carefully pulled into the station behind a pair of B8As in an AA configuration. While the passengers were getting on and off the train, the lead diesel spoke rudely to Nick.
Well, you've won the battle, but you've lost the war.
Excuse me?
You're gonna have to face the facts in due time. We diesels are taking over everything, including your regular work orders. See, it's not your fault, but soon the railroad's gonna scrap you and continue getting diesels like us. No daunting maintenance like your steam engines. Just a fill of oil and a touch on the start, and I'm off. No bother, no waiting. They have to fuss around you for hours before you're ready.
I may not pull out passengers too often, but I know for a fact that they only need one steam engine to pull a train.
Really? Because I heard you needed an additional engine to get you over the islands a couple months ago. And it's not the point. Railroads switching over to diesel power due to how much more efficient we're proving ourselves to be.
Then the engineer got a notification from the conductor over the radio. They were all clear to depart.
Well, I better go. This train's top priority will be taking it to your scrapyard. Wishing we got to pull it.
Stupid Diesel. I'd like to teach him a lesson if it's the last thing I do.
Man, that Diesel's nothing but a prick.
So the next day, Nick spoke to Roy, a Pennsylvania Railroad K4 Pacific class steam locomotive. He told him all about what the Diesel had said to him the night before.
He even said we're gonna be scrapped.
Hold that. Now's not the time to be uncertain about what the future holds. Just pay no attention to him, because I do the same assignments he does, and he just wants the job all to himself.
But I'm not in passenger service. I may be a mixed traffic engine, but I'm always assigned to freight.
Well, I have to get ready to take the Liberty Limited to Washington, D.C. Bye, Nick.
Less than 2 minutes after Roy went away with his train, the eastbound 20th Century Limited went by.
Hey PRR engine, this is how you pull a real train. Your train sucked.
That's 2 in less than 24 hours.
When Nick returned to Highland Valley later, he told everyone what happened.
Phew, what a jerk. If he said that stuff to me, I'd biff him off the rails.
His attitude was horrible. Does he realize he insulted another PRR locomotive?
I hope we don't have to deal with him like you, Nick.
Thank you, everyone. I'm just really frustrated right now.
Sorry to interrupt your conversations, but Frank, I'm going to be sending you to Conway Yard in a few hours to await your next task.
Well, duty calls. See you lads later.
Around 8 o'clock, worse was to come. The same Diesel Nick had to deal with was about to create problems for Frank. Frank was assembling his train when the Diesel sidled up alongside.
Scratch your green paint and go to the scrapyard. You're no good. You can't even pull trains like us.
I beg your pardon? My green paint is splendid and better than your filthy brown paint that makes you look like you had a mud bath. Anyways, I've heard about your antics, and they will not be tolerated on this railroad nor anywhere else.
You mean how good I keep time and provide quality service for our passengers? Is that what?
That's far from what I'm talking about, you git.
I'm gonna be taking the Pittsburgher tonight. Look out for me at 11.
I don't need it to anyway, stupid E8A. Now smack off, you mud-covered caterpillar.
But Frank didn't need to. At 8:30, he proceeded to collect more cars. But there happens to be a problem with PRR's multi-track layout. The diesel sped by Frank further down the line that night.
What's the matter? Getting weak for your old age, Gramps?
The diesel was feeling pleased with himself. Throughout his journey, he insulted every steam engine he came across.
Crappy on wheels. Should have retired you years ago. Not as good as me. Not much time left. Galloping sausage.
After work, Nick consulted with Roy, Frank, Alfred, and Richard in Philadelphia.
He called me a galloping sausage!
He told me I'm not a real passenger locomotive.
He wonders why we're still here.
He told me I should have been retired years ago, which he's kinda right. Nearly all members of my class are already gone.
I know the clock is ticking for us, but he doesn't have to shove it in our smoke boxes.
Well, there were signs that large-scale replacement is on the horizon. Remember a couple years ago when the Highland Valley Yard had steam locomotive facilities like water and coal towers?
I remember those were widespread in the 1940s.
And then from early to mid-1955, they removed stuff from our yard knowing that they wouldn't have a use for much longer. Highland Valley is a relatively small town anyway.
It makes me wonder why Tidewater still has a fueling depot for steam-powered engines.
Alright everyone, let's stop talking about this. This makes me very uncomfortable.
Hey, I just remembered something. A little over a year ago, the Federal came into DC Station too fast and crashed through the basement. That GG-1 stayed in the basement until Dwight E. Eisenhower's inauguration.
Hey, I know that wreck. I wish I could meet 4876 before he was retired and preserved at the B&O Railroad Museum, and plus that wreck inspired the most infamous scene of Silver Street.
They continued talking about the diesel and his antics when the Philadelphia yardmaster arrived.
Nick, it's time for you to take a manifest to Highland Valley.
Meeting adjourned. Bye, guys.
That night, after Nick finished his assignment, he crawled into the Highland Valley Roundhouse.
Mr. Edwards is under a great deal of pressure. He's going on vacation to New York City tomorrow, and he's trying to figure out what to pack and what to do before he goes.
Has anyone seen my glasses?
I don't know. Did you leave them in your office somewhere?
They were here just a minute ago. Oh wait, there they are. Ah, I can see clearly again. Now where's my Kodak Retina?
At midnight, Nick was camping out at the west end of the yard when Evelyn brought the westbound Broadway Limited into the station.
It's not him? Phew.
Not who?
Some rude diesel engine who thinks he knows everything and gives us grief about our future. I don't know his name, and I'd rather not find out.
Oh, him. I hate to break this to you, but he's pulling tomorrow night's Broadway Limited.
What? He is? That's when the controller's writing. Now when he talks about how good his ride is, now smoothly the quiet the diesel runs, the diesel will be more boastful than ever, and I have an awful feeling that Mr. Edwards' love for steam engines will decrease. This could even contribute to us being retired sooner. This can't be happening.
Nick, calm down. You're being too dramatic. Just because he gets a nice ride doesn't mean he'll stop liking you or that your fate is sealed. Besides, PRR's been using diesel since the 1940s.
Hate to break up the chat, but it's time to highball!
As you say, Mike. See you later, Nick.
Grandpa searched his office all night until he eventually got tired and went home to get some rest. The next morning, Frank was in Chicago preparing for his long journey east.
Why, hello there, Frank. I'm getting washed out. Gotta look splendid for today's journey. It's heartbreaking that your Brunswick Green can never top my Tucson. You're always pulling free while I get the best job on the railroad.
How good you look, it's just how you see yourself. My paint is more incredible, and there's no denying it. And nobody cares about your journey today, because it's gonna be like any other journey else.
Any other? Oh, please. The Highland Valley guy will be riding once he reaches his home location. It's my job to give him a good ride. Otherwise, we'll be hearing about it. And you, my friend, just come up with that splendid green paint of yours, thinking you're as good as me.
Actually, I'm better. Goodbye.
Wow, Frank roasted the E8. I guess it's a taste of his own medicine.
The E8 was irritated, but quickly brushed it off. That afternoon, 3 minutes after 4 o'clock, all the passengers were on their train with their baggage loaded up, so the diesel started out of Chicago Union Station. Meanwhile, at Highland Valley, Grandpap was still searching far and wide for his things.
Sir, have you got everything you need from the office?
Oh yes, I must pack my best suit. I should have seen a tailor this morning, but oh well.
You practically destroyed your office twice looking for stuff. Don't you think they're good now?
I think so, but I better look again.
Oh, yeah. I got something to tell you two.
What's up?
That rude diesel is gonna be leading Mr. E's train.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not. Elaine, Evelyn told me, and if that diesel gives our boss a splendid ride, he may see how outdated we actually are.
We cannot let this happen.
Right, so I have an idea.
Let me guess. We're going to sabotage the diesel's run so that he doesn't succeed.
No, that's too far. Remember that there are other passengers on the train besides him, and we don't want to take the risk of hurting any of them. If we do, our reputation will be the next thing to get hurt, and we'll probably get in big trouble.
I suppose you got a point. What's the idea?
Wait and see.
Later on, Nick found Roy and Bob, who were unassigned.
Roy, can I use your help?
Sure, what's up?
Next time we run across number 5895, challenge him to see who can pull the limited better.
Are you insane?
You don't stand a chance. You're just asking yourself to lose. No offense.
Unfortunately, Bob's right. He's sure to beat me. He'll be ruder than ever.
We have to try, though we're all steam locomotives and we must stand together.
Well, I've got a freight train to take to Grand Rapids. I wish you luck.
Thanks, Bob. Now, if Mr. Edwards came to New York on a train, he's coming back on a train, and I'll make sure you'll be the one to take him back.
Going to have a massive argument with the managers to make that happen. But never say never.
At Grandpa's house, he was just getting ready to head to the station.
William, are you sure you're ready?
I'll do one more check. Wallet, car keys, tickets, several changes of clothes, camera, glasses, golf clubs, golf balls. Okay, I think that's everything. Bye, honey. Love you. See you on Tuesday.
Elaine, Alfred, and Frank were in the sheds when the Broadway Limited approached the station.
Remember, guys, take no notice to what he says. If he does say anything, don't retaliate.
Hang on. There's a car approaching rather quickly.
Oh my stars, that's Mr. Edwards.
Just wait till the controller overrides in my train. That'll be the time of his whole life.
Time of his whole life? I'm a World War II veteran. You have no idea what it was like storming the Normandy beaches in France.
You bet. You gotta tell me some stories as long as there are no mentions of steam locomotives.
We rarely interacted with trains. I better tell you what it was like to run for long periods at a time, even in unusual terrain.
Go ahead.
It's been years since I rode a train, but I'm counting on you to get me there safely.
I'm not a steam locomotive, sir. I'm reliable.
When the diesel arrived in Harrisburg, the E8s were removed and a GG1 took the train the rest of the way. Elaine arrived in Philadelphia after hauling an overnight train. As expected, the diesel took the time to harass her again.
You know, right before I uncoupled from my train, your boss said to me that I rode so smoothly that he didn't even feel the movement.
Probably because he was asleep most of the way.
Nah, he wouldn't have felt it anyway. Goodbye.
Did your granddad really not feel the movement?
He would have had to at some point, but again, I was too young to know. I wasn't even with him. So anyways, while Grandpa was on vacation, a relief man took control of Highland Valley. He was a little bit friendlier than Grandpa. Not that Grandpa was unfriendly, but he was a tough guy to get to know, and was willing to help the Steamies. Grandpap was soon on day 3 of his vacation, enjoying himself a lot.
Who is this guy?
This is Mr. Paul. He's Mr. Edwards' temporary replacement.
I'm usually assisting at the Conway yard. I know every engine that's run by. Now, are you still having trouble with number 5895?
Yes!
Well, you won't be for long. I heard about your plan, and I spoke with the Harrisburg dispatcher. We're arranging to have Roy pull Mr. E's return train.
Why are you making a plan that may not succeed?
It's worth a try.
Fellas, I hate to be rude, but don't you all have work to do?
Oh yes, sorry sir.
Not me. I just got back from a long haul.
The next morning, the Highland Valleyers got an unexpected visitor.
Morning everyone, rise and shine.
What the? What are you doing here?
I brought the Pittsburgh to Pittsburgh this morning. Now I wanted to see how my pals are doing.
Pals? Eh? You can't treat us like trash and be friends with us at the same time. It doesn't work that way!
You know too much, Frank.
Get out of here. No diesels allowed in the shed, except for nice ones like Evelyn and Raymond.
Since when was the policy made? I see diesels in this shed all the time when I pass by here.
Hey, do you have an assignment here?
Not really. Sorry, sir.
Next day, Granddad's vacation came to a close. He checked out of his hotel and headed to Penn Station, where he caught the Broadway Limited. When the crew got word that the Broadway Limited was crossing the border between Pennsylvania and New Jersey, Roy got nervous.
Nick doesn't know what he's doing. The question is if I can do better than 58.95.
The time came. Once the Limited arrived at the station and the GG1 was taken off, Roy backed onto the train.
I'm gonna give Mr. Edwards a nice ride home.
All of the engines were waiting in Highland Valley when the Broadway Limited pulled into the station and Grandpa got off.
Home sweet home.
Oh, hey, Mr. Edwards, you're back. Did you enjoy your vacation?
I sure did.
Did you enjoy your ride home?
Oh yes, I did. It was dark for the last leg of the trip, but at least I was able to get a bit of sleep in that time.
Well, how did Roy do pulling you?
He was splendid. It was a comfortable ride, there was no delay, nothing to complain about.
That's good to hear. But how's your ride back compared to your ride there?
I don't know, but on the way I was excited for my trip, but on the way back, there wasn't a lot for me to think about other than getting back to reality.
So no comment about the engines that got you there.
What could I say? The ride was good both ways.
I guess my plan was no good.
Thanks for everything, Mr. Paul. I'm gonna go home and lie down.
And I gotta get to the next stop. Cheerio, everyone.
The way Mr. Paul watched the engines remind me of when Mr. Wyatt, aka Sergeant No Name, looked over Highland Valley last year. Only difference is that Mr. Paul was nice.
Yeah, well be assured Mr. Y won't be bothering you again.
So is this the end of the story?
Not exactly. A few days later, Nick and Elaine met up with number 5895.
Ah, no. Here we go.
So, Roy did just about as good as I did. Is that so? That's a shock that man doesn't even know what motive power should be on our trains. I heard that last year, one of New York Central Yardmasters rode the 20th Century Limited from Albany to Chicago behind a Niagara, then behind some E units on the way home. He enjoyed both rides, but he preferred the diesels that be this train.
Well, our controller was too busy enjoying the ride to care.
Oh by God, I hate the New York Central. They think they're as good as the Pennsylvania Railroad and make their own versions of the Broadway Limited. Just to show how cool they think they are.
Whoa, Elaine, we're actually agreeing with this diesel on something. The NYC's is not as good as we are. I bet the 20th Century Limited won't be around next century.
They've never seen the Broadway Limited's advertisements.
Alright, I better go. I'm to take the Trailblazer to New York in an hour. It may not be as hot as the Broadway Limited, but it's still one of our most popular services somehow. Seriously, that train just takes same route as the Broadway Limited with a few extra stops and no coaches.
It's hard to believe that we have 3 New York and Chicago services, the Broadway Limited, the Trailblazer, and the General.
Whatever they are, they're all Pennsylvania Railroad trains, and the railroad takes pride in them, but I'm still not liking steam engines.
I promise, 58, 95, they'll get used to it.
The Broadway was indeed one of the finest passenger trains ran in the Northeast, and it would continue to serve people for another 4 decades. The train is a legend whose legacy shall live on for years to come.
That was really good. I hope that rude diesel learned his lesson. He reminds me of Alec in some ways.
Wait, who's Alec?
He was a Norfolk and Western EMD GP9. He always harassed Barry, Rourke, and other steam engines, just like what 5895 did. He also reminds me of Connor and Friends Farnsworth.
Oh, I see. Well, I had fun, but I've got to take my local now.
See ya, Ricey. And that was a better story than the other day when Mike was all rambling about the Ohio State Buckeyes versus Maryland Terrapins game and how the Ohio State Buckeyes ended up winning 52-51.
I'm going to think about how amazing it would be if that train still existed.